Welcome to Rewrite Reality with Jillian Greyse, the podcast leading the global shift in transformation through frequency, quantum healing, and energetic mastery. I'm your host, Jillian Greyse, architect of energetic alignment, and for 20 years, I've been a pioneer of integrating self-transformation for thousands of souls. Each week, we answer the questions that keep you stuck and deliver high-frequency tools to heal and evolve every layer of your being. Join me to elevate your vibration, rewrite your reality, and activate the life your soul remembers. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Rewrite Reality with Jillian Greyse. On this episode, we are going to talk energy, but in an entirely different way. We are going to talk about your body as an energy source, because that's exactly what it is. We are going to chat about the energy within, the energy that you release out into the world, and how that is a precious resource that we have not been taught to properly covet or properly care for. So therefore, we are living in a world where people are in an epidemic of exhaustion. There are so many people that are at a baseline of anger every single day. There are so many people that are tired of even waking up, listening to anything, talking to anyone. They just cannot handle any type of interaction. And when that happens, that is a sure sign that you are in a situation where you're giving out a lot more energy than you're allowing back in. And this can happen for a variety of reasons. This can happen because you're hitting the daily grind and it's way too busy and you're in a rush constantly and there's too many things on your to-do list, and those things are non-negotiable. This can happen if you're spending too much time in different ways of thinking that are not positive for you. So if you get really caught up in the news, for instance, or if you get really caught up in crime dramas or things that sort of bring your energy down lower, when you are working with or in the middle of doing something or connecting with something, whether it's someone you're actually talking to or something that you're just emotionally connecting your emotions onto and your reactions to at any given time, you are giving energy to it. And that energy will help whatever it is you're sending it towards to grow. And that's something that some people don't understand. They really, really struggle with. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. That is science. There has been plenty of studies on this topic of where you place your attention is where you place your energy, and therefore you can shift the outcome. The double split experiment is one of my favorite. It talks about how attention alters reality. It talks about how the act of observing even the simplest particles will change their behavior, and that when you are no longer observing them, they move in a randomized pattern. So there is so much to say about the energy that we project, not just in the actions that we do, the thoughts that we have, also in the emotions that we yield towards any given person, any given topic, or any given situation in our life. Many people don't realize this. And as we continue to move forward in a world that has a lot of things trying to draw our attention and a lot of the surrounding things trying to pull us away from where our focus is, it's important to understand and start to look at that energy as being a natural resource, a valuable natural resource, your natural resource, one that you own, one that you can protect, and one that you can direct in the way that you need to. And I've dealt with so many people that have reached a point where they've given so much energy and so much of their attention to different things, different people, different events, different scenarios in their life, work, kids, family, emotional traumas, whatever it is, that they are not able to function in their day-to-day without starting off at this baseline of being sad or angry or exhausted or frustrated or annoyed. And that's important to also realize when you are that underlying current of angry or that underlying current of being annoyed or being sad or depressed, that is a strong indicator that you have sent out more energy than you are able to return back to you. And therefore, you're depleting your natural resources. I want you to start to look at your energy in the way that it functions almost as a currency, so to speak, like an interaction. Every thought, every interaction, every emotion that deposits or withdraws from your energetic base. You need to become aware of how to audit your energy Just like you would your finances. Where is it leaking? Where do you have it invested? Especially if you're not feeling optimally, take a peek at what you are expending. And then let's work on bringing that energy back. And I teach so many people how to do this because I often will work with individuals who are so fragmented because of all the different roles that they play and all the different people pleasing techniques that they've been taught to do culturally, that they get lost to a point where they don't even recognize themselves or know what they like anymore. And that process of being pulled away from your truth will bleed out into everything you do. So while you may think that you are being this ultra incredible parent or this wonderful partner, when you are depleted and you don't feel like yourself, you aren't giving your actual self. And other people feel that. Other people will feel like you're just not really there, or you're not really connected, or no matter what you do, they really won't value it because your energy frequency is so low that they really don't look at it as something that's of value. And if you don't look at your energy as a value, then no one else will outside of you. And this is where it begins to get sticky and people get in trouble because they will give and give and give of themselves. And they don't look at that currency rate. They don't look at, okay, how am I giving back to myself? What do I need? Was I okay with this? Did this cross a boundary for me? They don't pay attention to those checks and balances. And then when they don't pay attention to those checks and balances, the person that is taking will keep taking and taking and taking. And eventually there'll be this discord where you pull back your energy and you no longer even want to interact with that person. But it's not their fault. They were just taking what you were giving. And there's an infinite dance between giving and receiving. And you have to find the balance between those things. And I talk about this in chapter 6 of the Vibrational Architect's Handbook, where we go into depth about the energetics of giving and receiving and how there has to be an equal flow. And when that equal flow dissipates and is not going in the way that it needs to, you aren't feeding the yin and the yang, you aren't feeding the masculine and the feminine, you aren't feeding both aspects of yourself, then an imbalance begins to occur. And that imbalance will leak out into your interactions. It'll leak out into your mindset and your mental state. It'll leak out into your physical state. So it's very important to keep that balance flowing the best way you can. So as we move through this podcast, I want you to really start looking at your energy as currency. It's your currency. And we're going to chat about how you're going to protect it and how you're going to acknowledge that moving forward. It is your most important bank account. And without it, you're going to find yourself depleted and you're going to find yourself not being yourself. And when we do that, it's really easy to blame circumstances, to blame other people, to blame news stories, to blame situations on what we're feeling. But the truth is, at any given moment, we have a decision about how we want to feel about something and the type of energy we want to expend towards it. We also have a decision on how we are going to set our own boundaries. All of those choices are ours. So when we make poor choices for ourselves because we don't understand that energy and that currency within, it isn't someone else's fault for taking advantage of that or for using it to their own advantage. So we're going to talk about how you can take that energy and you can invest it in the right way and you can see where it's lacking and the things that you can do to start to safeguard that currency for yourself. At the end of this podcast, I'm going to be doing something different than I usually do. I'm actually going to walk you through a guided release that you can either do if you're sitting at home and relaxing, or you can do by repeating the words in your head if you're someplace that you really can't sit and close your eyes. However you want to utilize that release. I'm going to start adding this new addition on to most of our podcasts where I also give you a transmission, a way of understanding how to take the energetics of something and how to apply them in a way where you are releasing and where you are aligning with what you need to. So that is a fun new addition that I'm going to be putting into our podcast as we move forward. First, we're going to pay attention to when you're releasing too much energy, the physical things you're going to feel when you are allowing something to move past your boundary points. Your mood is going to change. You're going to feel angry. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel sad. Many of you feel anxious. So you're looking for a shift in your thoughts or your feelings that doesn't feel good. The immediate response when that shift happens is that you have too much energy going out and not enough coming in. So we talked a lot about that anxious or those feelings of being uncomfortable on a couple podcasts ago where we were discussing anxiety and how when there's a lot of electromagnetic frequencies moving into the planet from solar flares, from shifts in the Schumann resonance, you feel those things. So therefore you get anxious. Well, when you step back and you look at energy as a whole, the reason why you get anxious is because you don't have enough energy within to move the energy through. So when you don't have enough energy to interact with people or to have discussions with people in your life or to deal with certain news, that's going to be a strong indicator that you have released so much of your being, your frequency, your energetics to another individual or another circumstance, and it is still holding on to you. So I want you to look at energy as the same way that it is in our homes. So when you turn on a light, you are drawing energy that entire time from a source. And if that light in that room stays on, then that source and that energy is going to be continuously drawing from that source. And not until it is shut off are you going to get that source returning back or siphoning and no longer pulling. So everything that you interact with that stays on your mind, that stays with you, you are a source that is sending light out, energy out, and it stays connected whether you're consciously thinking about it or not. If you think about it, the base station that is sending the electricity to your home that turns on your light, it's not sitting there going, okay, the light is going over this house and now this house and now this house. It's not paying attention to where it's going. It just knows that it's being pulled or it's being used or it's being utilized. The same thing happens with our energy. When you are really caught up at something at work and then you leave work and you take it home with you, then your energy is still as though it is there. So therefore, that frequency is still being released. That energy is still being siphoned. Now, let's say you stay with that energy at work that's still pulled there, and you get home and there's lots of cleaning to do. Then you have another source of energy coming from it. And then let's say that the kids are acting up. Then you've got another source of energy coming to it. And then let's say you get a phone call from a family member and they're going through a trauma and you have to help them work through it. That's another siphon of energy. So before you know it, you can easily see how that natural resource within you starts to be pulled and starts to be pulled dramatically. Now imagine if you never shut off the switch. So many of us don't do that. So many of us will take all of the issues that were the day before, the week before, the month before, and we'll keep reinventing them every single day. We'll keep bringing them with us. And then we'll keep adding on to them. We'll keep adding more sources of energy, more things to do, and it starts to compile. So eventually what happens is you have an empty shell or you have a resource of energy that can't perform the way it once could. So it's like when you turn on the light and you have too many lights on in your house and there's too much energy going and your lights start to flicker. That happens to us internally. And when that happens to us internally, the way that we react to the world shifts as well. And we don't show up the way we want to show up. We're no longer proud of our interactions. We start to get people making snarky comments that we're always in a mood or we're never happy or it's like we're never paying attention to them. And that's the exact opposite from what many of us are intending. But that's what happens when energy starts to explode. Okay, so now that we can identify all the circumstances that go around giving away that natural resource and what it feels like, let's try to pull in and see what we can do in order to rebuild that, in order to safeguard that, and begin to take a look at that checkbook and decide where we're going to send our finances, where we're going to invest. One of the best ways to do this is to start paying attention to your boundaries. When you feel that emotion shift, when you feel that you have too much negative energy coming out, so you start to feel sad, you start to feel angry, you start to feel exhausted in the morning, that's when you have to start to become aware of your boundaries. Look at the things that are causing that emotion. You're not actually mad because someone needed your help. You're mad because you don't have any more energy to give and you're being asked for more. In order for you to switch that off, then you're going to have to pull back your energy and give yourself something. And this is where the act of giving and receiving starts to become of great value. For everything you give to another, you have to receive something. And it doesn't have to be at the exact equal balance, because let's say you hand somebody a napkin at the dinner table. That doesn't mean that you have to step back and go, okay, now I've got to make sure that I do something good for myself. I'm talking about the things that you start to feel like they're pulling at you. So let's say you've got a huge project that's due at work and you've been helping out coworkers for a while and you're kind of exhausted by it. When you really find that you're expending a lot of energy, you have to find a way to receive a lot of energy. And that receiving can come in various different ways. There's so many different options that you have to receive energy, and you could do it rather quickly. You can do it with different ways of going through like a mind technique, which we're going to do at the end of this podcast. You can do a meditation. You can do some prayer work. You can go for a walk outside. You can set a date where you are just going to eat lunch by yourself and you are going to go to your favorite restaurant and you are just going to sit there and you are going to just eat the food, feel the food, taste the food. How often do we even do that? You can get a massage. You can take some time out to read a book. Giving yourself the opportunity to feel like it's receiving is extremely important when you're overgiving. So that's going to be our first check in balance. Another way is to be aware of the boundaries. Now, some of us give and give and give regardless of how we feel, regardless of knowing that we're totally depleted. We just continue that. That's a cultural thing based in guilt. And I want to say women do this more than men because they've been culturally taught to be extremely accommodating and extremely agreeable. And when you do that, you release the idea of creating boundaries. You almost demonize the idea of creating a boundary. Boundaries are extremely important. They teach the other individual that you're working with that there's a level of respect that you have for yourself. And what's going to happen is that individual is going to also have respect for you. So what you have for yourself, others will emulate. So when you say to somebody, okay, I've got a lot on my plate right now. I'm sorry, I can't talk tonight. Or when you say to somebody, I can't take this extra thing on because there's many other things I'm doing and I want to make sure I can do my best. That teaches the other person that you have integrity, that you have self-respect, and they automatically shift in how they're going to approach you and what they're going to ask you to do. They'll be more mindful of it. So rather than dump whatever they want on you, they'll be much more choosy about when they actually need assistance. Boundaries are important, whether it's at work, whether it's with your children. It teaches, especially with the family and with your children, it teaches your children to also be able to cultivate boundaries. When you grow up with yes parents that just say yes to everything you want and do everything that you want and don't ever say anything else, then you end up with yes parents later in life and yes partners later in life that will ultimately run that same well dry. So as you make a different choice and you show them that there's a different path, you give them the strength to take that path for themselves when they need it, which is extremely valuable. Let's say it's with family members. And there's a lot of family drama out there, and we are headed into the family drama months. So take a deep breath, everybody, because with all of the holidays that start to come up, all the get-togethers that come up between November and December, it can really be a very intense time for many people. That being said, drawing boundaries with those things, extremely important. Maybe there's topics you're not interested in discussing. You can always say, let's change this topic. It's not something I really want to have a discussion about. We have different viewpoints, and that's okay. So let's move forward. Maybe it's issues that constantly run in the family between different personalities. Becoming aware, first of all, what those different issues are. Those are your triggers. And we talked about triggers on an earlier podcast. Your triggers are gateways to give you knowledge about things that are blocked within. So becoming more inquisitive when you do have interactions and you do feel triggered, that's important as well, because it's going to give you the option to step away from that interaction and to heal yourself, because that's the key. And I think a lot of people got caught up in this like new age type way of thinking where if you just didn't think about it and you just ignored it, it would go away. That has a lot of truth to it, because remember the double split theory. So where you place your attention is where you place your energy. However, because we're beings, we really want to heal. So having an awareness of what throws us off and taking a step back to spend energy on releasing that so that we can change our vibration is extremely important. And that's one thing that the whole New Age theory kind of forgot. In order to actually create change in your life, you have to create change in your frequency. And if you're not releasing things that are formally upsetting to you, like if you can't just ignore it and it seems like it's fake to do that, then you're going to find yourself stuck in the same patterns, but think you're doing all the right things. So you want to make sure you're very honest with yourself about the boundaries that you need to set and about why you're setting them. And then let's say you have to have an interaction. Let's say you have a boss that you really cannot stand, and no matter what, you've got to go to lunch with them, and they're going to the entire time continuously ask you to do things and just really create a lot of internal discord throughout the entire meeting. So let's say that occurs, then you have to make sure you schedule in time later where you can turn on some light music, maybe light some candles, sit and relax and do some breathing, anything that works for you to give yourself a reset. For some people, they give themselves a foot massage. For some people, they go to the gym. For some people, they play a sport. It's different for everybody. And you'll know what your reset is because when you do it, it's almost like what you're upset about, or it's almost like that exhaustion or that anger dissipates. That's your currency. That is you getting that energy back. That's you accepting that return and being able to allocate it in the direction that it needs to go into. And that's why setting those boundaries is extremely important, and having awareness of the boundaries to set is important, but also making sure that you refill that well. Before we continue, let's take a breath. You're here for a reason, not by accident, not by coincidence, but through divine orchestration, and these words were meant for you. This is your moment to rewrite humanity. Think of one soul in your life who needs this transmission and send them this podcast episode now. There are so many out there who are silently struggling. Our role is to reach them, to ignite something ancient and true. Whether it's someone you love, someone lost in the noise, or someone ready to remember who they are, this is your chance. Because vibrational awareness doesn't just shift minds, it realigns lifelines. It reawakens paths. It reconnects souls to their original blueprint. Be the bearer of that light. It isn't just generous, it's sacred work. Share this, speak it, seed it. This is more than a podcast. It's a movement, and you're a vital part of it. Let's rewrite humanity together, one frequency, one soul, one remembrance at a time. Now we continue. You do something that's going to replenish that energy in, because every cell in our body generates energy via ATP. And I know that a lot of people don't even understand what that is, but it's basically the molecular fuel of life. Our bodies emit measurable electromagnetic fields. The heart's field is one of the most especially strong, and people can feel it several feet away. And this is science. This isn't like, just that new age type way of thinking or theories that people have. This is measurable science. Harvard researchers even showed that humans have a unique metabolic rate compared to other mammals, and we burn energy faster, which fuels the frequency around us, which makes it so there's a wider range of energy that we have. So my question to you is, why aren't we taught to protect that energy? Why aren't we taught to safeguard that energy? It's aware that it's important, and we all know that we have it. We all can feel it. So why doesn't anyone show us what to do with it? That's what I'm doing right now. So anybody that you have in your life, knowing this information about their energy is extremely powerful, because when you don't have that energy safeguarded, then what happens? You start giving it to other things, and those other things become stronger. So I'm going to speak hypothetically about how big this fallout can become. Let's say you have constant news bombarding you about all these different major things that can happen, major disasters that can take place. You start to get really worried about natural disasters occurring in the world and all these different directions we get pulled into every day. So you begin to get really invested and really fearful of some of the things that you're hearing. What are you doing? You're giving your energy to that thing so it can grow. So we spend a lot of time giving our energy to things that we actually don't want and allowing it to take our energy and grow. And it's one of the reasons I tell people, shut the news off. I don't want to hear about politics. We're not going to have a discussion about the latest major actor or actress or what's going on in their life. I don't really care about what kind of epidemic is coming. Because as you focus in on it, and you have to wonder the reason why we're given this information before something happens, is it to use our energy in the direction that someone else or something else wants it to be? I mean, knowing about humans having energy that can be siphoned and can be channeled into different directions is nothing new. We've been doing this since the Dark Ages, for goodness sakes. I mean, we've been doing healing traditions where people would channel in their energy and they would heal certain parts of the body. We've been using this for all sorts of different experiments for years and years. So, knowing that there's plenty of people out there that have this awareness and they know how to pull it through makes you a pawn in whatever they're trying to pull in. And this goes with anything. This goes even if you work in a large company and they're like, we're going to be number one this year and we're going to make sure that we drive the most sales out of any company in the entire United States. Well, that's why employee morale is so important, because if you can get that group of those thousands of individuals to believe in your cause, what did you just do? You took their energy and you used it for your advantage. And this can be good and it can be bad. But what matters the most is being aware of it. What matters the most is you knowing where you're spending your energy, you being on board with how it's allocated, and you choosing to stay in that frequency for whatever reason, choosing to continue down that road for whatever reason. If not, then it's time for you to step back, put up some boundaries. That will be that cutoff. Awareness is key. Saying, okay, I don't really want this to happen. So why do I keep talking about, this outbreak or this famine or, this explosion or this alien invasion? I don't want this to happen. So why am I putting my energy into that? And then choosing other things, putting your energy into things that you actually want, like people living in harmony, like there being natural resources of energy that we don't have to pay for, like everyone being healed. If people put their attention on those things as much as they put their attention on the bad things that we are pulled towards, the entire landscape of our world would change within a decade, easily. That's how energy works, everybody. So this isn't a simple request or a simple piece of information I'm giving you. Like every piece of information on any podcast I give you, it's to change the collective view in a way that's more powerful. So I want you to step back next time you want to get really caught up and you want to complain about who's in charge or who's doing what. And I want you to focus on, is this what I want to create more of? And if that answer is no, then it's time for an internal reevaluation. It's time to sit and say, what are the things that I want to invest my energy in? Because that's what energy is. It's an investment. And using it wisely is going to make a decision in your world of whether or not you are energetically rich or energetically poor. And there are plenty of people who are already aware of this, that are already working with it and utilizing it. So it's time for you to jump on board. Okay, other ways to kind of create that boundary when that energy is getting siphoned too much, grounding yourself. So wherever you're standing, taking a deep breath, sending that energy down into the ground, kind of taking a pause whenever you kind of feel like there's too much energy being pulled from you. That's key. Breath work, when you bring in breathing, when you bring in air, that's prana. Our ancients knew that prana was the breath of life. Every single time you breathe in air that traveled across the Sahara Desert, went inside of the lungs of tiny babies, went inside of the lungs of every animal, and then now you're breathing it in as yours. There's an exchange of frequency that takes place. So when you take a moment to just breathe, you're taking a moment to just center that within and connect with that. You can do visualizations. A really great one is cutting the cords after intense interactions. And what I mean by cutting the cords is, remember where that electrical cord. So when you talk with somebody or you interact with somebody and you kind of feel that energy getting siphoned off, actually taking a moment to visualize a cord of energy between you and that individual being cut so that there isn't this constant flow, that can help you to redirect your thoughts immediately. And it doesn't have to be an individual. It can be a full circumstance. Let's say you're afraid of, the world ending. You can take yourself and then take that cord of energy connected onto this huge concept of the world coming to an end. And you can cut the cord with that and bring the energy back to you from one side of the cord, bring your energy away from you to the other side. And that can help to pull that energy back into balance and give you a clearer frame of mind. Those are all ways to start using that energy for the currency that it is and protecting it for the value that it has. Okay, in the past, I have done community questions at this point. There were tons of community questions, by the way, about energetics and about being able to create boundaries and all of those pieces. So I think from most of what we talked about, many of those questions are already answered. And I want the opportunity to do this closing energy meditation with all of you to teach you how to center your energy and to teach you how to begin owning that energy. So if you have an opportunity to be someplace where you can be in a quiet area, that would be wonderful. If not, that's okay. If you're driving to work, that's fine. I want you to repeat after me. If you are driving or if you're in a situation that you can't really relax, you can either repeat out loud or in your head and then go through some of the motions. Take a deep breath. Breathe in and exhale slowly. Feel your body. Feel your space. Allow that moment to center you and become aware of the energy within. Now say silently or out loud, "My energy is mine." I am sacred. I am power. I call all parts of my energy back to me. From every place, every person, and every thought. I release what is not mine. I let go of anything that drains me. I seal my field with clarity, truth, and peace. I am the guardian of my own energy. I choose where it flows. I choose what I allow. I am safe. I am sovereign. I am whole. And so it is. Take a deep breath. Allow all that energy to come back to you. And know that this simple practice of awareness, of declaring your power, and of taking back your truth is the best first step you could ever make in changing the direction of how your energy flows and becoming the accountant of your own energy field. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jillian Greyse. Please take a moment to review this podcast on whatever you're listening to. That helps us to grow. That helps us to share. That helps us to continue to expand. It is extremely valuable and so important. And I am grateful for each and every one of you. And I'll chat with you again next week. You've just tuned into Rewrite Reality with Jillian Greyse, architect of energetic alignment and pioneer of integrated self-transformation. If this episode shifted your frequency, share it with someone you care about because one share can spark healing, alignment, and a ripple effect of transformation in someone's life. Submit your questions today at jilliangrace.com/ask and explore transformational tools, masterclasses, and frequency-based healing at jilliangrace.com. Join me every week to elevate your vibration, rewrite your reality, and activate the life your soul remembers.